everybody, and welcome to the Harry Potter Trading Card Game podcast. My name is Sammy,
And I'm Huamin.
and we are missing Riss. He's taking a couple of weeks off to take care of some stuff. But until then, you're stuck with the two of us having a conversation about the various topics that we're going to be talking about. And today's topic is going to actually be, I guess it's a good thing that we've been doing this for what, 6 years now. So we have talked quite extensively together. So I think that we will hopefully have a good conversation, just two of us.
Hopefully.
And today's conversation is going to be about the recent B&R update. So that's the ban and restricted list update. Every year, I think in 2023, we started doing this on June 1st every year. We had one in 2020 and then waited 3 years before updating the list for various reasons. And so now it's an annual thing. And some years we'll have some additions or some things taken off. Some years we won't. And we'll give an update every June 1st, usually on our website, Discord, Facebook, and everywhere else. So we just want to take today and talk about the B&R list and what it is and the status and all that kind of stuff.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like June 1st was chosen because you like doing all of the weird Harry Potter dates for releases.
Well,
And it's
yeah.
isn't it Harry's birthday or something?
No, that's in July.
Oh,
But I
that's in
think,
July. Oh my gosh.
yeah, close,
Never
but
mind.
no. But I think the first B&R update did come out on June 1, and we were talking
Uh,
about like how frequent should we do it? We were talking about should we do it every quarter, kind of like Magic was doing? Should it be once a
mhm.
year? Should it be twice a year? And then we just kind of landed on it's going to be June 1st every year because that's when the first one was, and that kind of set the precedent. And we didn't think we needed to do more than just one a year. So it was more because I like things to be the same. And June 1 just made things the same every year.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. It's been too
Yeah.
long since we had that conversation, I guess.
It's been a long time
Yeah,
since we started a lot of
yeah, let's not think about that.
this.
Let's talk about the banned and restricted list.
Yeah, so do you want to go a little bit about like explaining it?
We created the banned and restricted list because there just are some cards in Harry Potter that we believe are not designed extremely well, and they create very problematic play patterns. They create unfun game states. They either are too strong, usually too strong compared to their peers, or they disrupt future design space. We created a banned and restricted committee, which is basically just the entire revival team.
Pretty much. I think there's
And then
7 people on it, right?
is it seven?
It's 6 or 7. So there's
Six or
there's a
seven.
decent
Yeah.
number of people on it. Like it's quite large.
In the standards of like our groups, yes, it's quite large. I remember the flavor text committee is only like 2 people.
And that varies between every single set too.
Yeah. So we do say committee, but yeah, one of our actual larger groups. And then usually we just talk about like the problematic cards that we've been seeing. And then we take a vote and say like, okay, who wants this banned? Who wants this restricted? Who wants whatever? Make your arguments. State them now or hold your peace for another year.
Pretty much.
And we look at the banned and restricted and erratas, I guess, as well, which are the new addition to this, as kind of like a last resort of we want to make the game better, but we want to make as few changes as possible. We try to be extremely selective on what we're putting on the banned and restricted list to kind of not like disrupt the meta or not disrupt players too much.
Yeah, we would much rather use our ability to design new cards and to release those as a way to kind of combat issues we're seeing, as opposed to just banning everything from like the original set or something. We really want to use the design tools we have to improve the game and not use the ban list as that. And I think that you gave a really good summation of all that too.
And you talk about banning all the O5 cards. I don't think we've ever talked about banning all the O5 cards,
No.
but the suggestion to ban all of Chamber of Secrets has come up at least a couple times.
Yes, that set within itself is just kind of problematic. And I would love to have seen like the next set of cards that was coming out because you know that it exists somewhere, and to see if like the power level of the next set was at Chamber of Secrets or if it went back down to like Diagon Alley and Quidditch Cup power level. I just want to know what was the future. What kind of power level was that? But we'll never know, and that is what it is.
I mean, those documents are never getting released to the public, so
No, God, no. I want to go through really quick. The B&R list at this point, I believe, is up to 12 cards, 12 or 13 cards. And we have one that is for starters. So that has Ginny and Ron. on it, and those are the only two cards banned as starters. And then we have about another 12 cards that are banned in your deck or restricted to one for various reasons. There is a document on our website and that floats around our Discord and whatnot, and you can read that if you want to see the reasoning for why these things were banned, our thought process behind it, and all of it really kind of boils down to what you said initially for the reasons why we have this in the first place. So if you're interested, we're not going to go through all of that now, but please feel free to go and just read that on your own time. Everything is together. What we are going to talk about today is the updates to this year's B&R list and why we chose what we chose and why we chose what we didn't choose as well. Let's start with the only one card was added to the ban list. And this was actually shifted from restricted to one to a full out ban, and that's deboning. Let's just talk about this card real quick to give you guys context listening. The card essentially says that your opponent cannot use actions to play cards on their next turn. It's a 7-cost transfig card. So yeah, we have a reasoning in the document as to why we banned this card. And we shifted it from restricted to banning. And I think a lot of it kind of came down to, while restricting it did limit the power because you had less in your deck, the consistency was brought down a little bit. There's just so many ways to bring back deboning and to just continually use it and kind of lock your opponent out, because actions are how you do stuff and how you get back in the game. And if you can't use them every single turn because they're locked out every single turn, you can never get back in the game. And it just creates this play pattern that is just unfun and is, in my opinion, very boring.
Playing a card that says your opponent can't play the game for a turn is not very fun. Playing a card that says your opponent cannot play the game for a turn every turn becomes a little toxic. And we just didn't want that in the game. We tried restricting it to one. It still seemed kind of problematic because of the amount of recursion. And also, we were joking around that restricted to one is restricted to one. We can only have one card restricted to one at a time. So deboning had to leave. I think I want to say I was the one that suggested that we restrict deboning to one rather than banning it outright. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago when
I
we
think it
did the
was a
change?
year ago, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it would make things better, and it did make things better, I think. It like deboning stopped appearing in a lot of decks at like a very high rate, I think, but it just shifted the paradigm on how people play this card as opposed to
Yes.
like a card that you can just throw like 3 or 4 of in your deck and be like, oh, I'm just gonna deboning you every once in a while to like, I'm just gonna deboning you every turn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
uh
and if you look at the other restricted to one card, it is Venomous Tentacular Juice, which is still very powerful, and there are like other kind of combos that you can do with it and whatnot, but it still requires you to really have an effective combo with that card to get up to 12 power, which is almost double what deboning asks. And that's just such a different thing, where I think that we're very comfortable with a game-ending combo that is at 12 power as opposed to one that's at 7. And
yeah.
there's just a huge difference there.
The other combo with Venomous Tentacular Juice is where you have Hannah Abbott out and you can play the same copy twice, but also
Mhm.
you sunk 2 actions into a character. You probably let it sit there for a turn, and if they know what deck you're playing, they definitely know that you're possibly threatening the Venomous Tentacular Juice. So they can either
Yes.
dump their hand, try not to let themselves die to it, etc. Yeah, we're very comfortable with where Venomous Tentacular Juice is currently sitting at restricted to one. We were not comfortable with where deboning was sitting when it was restricted to one.
And I actually am not in favor of the restricted to one because I think it just adds confusion. But with VTJ, it works really, 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 really well. And I am actually okay with that card being restricted to one because it works so well. And it allows us as designers to say, okay, so we have this card that there's only one copy in your deck and it's costing 9. What kind of cards are we going to be able to design around that one copy? And it just
Mhm.
works really well, I think. Whereas, yeah, as for all the reasons you said, deboning just does not work in that same way.
That's it. That's the updates to the banned and restricted list for
Super short.
this year.
Yep, super short and sweet. But we do want to talk briefly about our watch list because a lot of where kind of our B&R list comes from is listening to the community, playing in games and tournaments ourselves, and just hearing what you all say you want banned, you're just not having fun playing against, is just kind of a too punishing of a card, all of that kind of stuff. So we definitely have a watch list, and there's, I don't know, 15 or 20 cards on that watch list. We're not going to talk about all of them, but there's a couple that kind of have risen to the top of our watch list that we do want to touch on just a little bit.
I guess the first item on our list is Draco Malfoy Slytherin coupled with Table Trouble. I think that Table Trouble has always been a very problematic card. I'm going to talk about Table Trouble first because I hate this card. I think that this card was a mistake. Why does it cost 5 and just wipe all items? Like, ugh. Anyways, but the problem with Table Trouble is that like Draco Malfoy Slytherin also exists, and DMS is like extremely good at creating extremely wide item boards.
Yes.
And there just isn't really any clean solution to that besides like Table Trouble. And the threat of Table Trouble in any deck also like forces DMS to play differently. So we haven't seen like very much large success with DMS. We've probably seen a lot of large success with Table Trouble, but that's just because Table Trouble is a lot easier of a card
Yes.
to put into your deck than
Yep.
DMS because hitting 5 power is something that almost every deck does. Looking at you, Risk.
I think another thing to think about is, and you kind of set it up really well, the Harry Potter card game kind of has more one for one destruction
Removal.
effects. Yeah, and so it's really looking at, I'm going to play one card, you're going to play one card, but as you said, Draco just like runs away with the game. And if you look at like the mass removal stuff, Transfig from the original 5 has like Table Trouble, Transfig, Exam, and Test,
Yep.
and then I think Coral, and that's all you really have for like a mass thing. And so if you're doing this one for once,
Excuse me.
am I missing one?
Dumbledore's Watch.
Oh, that stupid card. Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. If you want to consider that in that group too. That's at the top of the watch list actually.
It is.
And no pun intended with that with what I just said either. But yeah, that card. But so in the original 5, like you had these cards that can just give you this a huge advantage and allow you to play all of these other cards, and the other person can just never catch up. And Table Trouble balances that. And we released a couple of them in Revival, like Living Room Explosion, that potion one I can't think of right now. And then we,
Melted Cauldron.
yes. And then
Yeah.
we just spoiled last week Rain of Bludgers. So we're kind of starting to get to that point where there's more mass destruction cards. And so it's starting to balance out Draco a little bit. And rather than just ban him, if we can use the design tools we have to design counters to him, I think that's a better direction to go. And so we're starting to see that. Not sure if it's there yet. As you said, we haven't seen a lot of success with his decks, so maybe it is there, or maybe his decks just are not that good.
Yeah.
But these are definitely tools that we're designing to kind of keep him balanced and not have to ban him.
And +1 action is very strong. Items very strong. We think that DMS is probably very strong, but the build just hasn't really come together for him yet. And maybe also once we have more answers to items, we can say goodbye to Table Trouble. But that'll be my personal crusade. You know, I have a lot of them.
I mean,
It's like
we've all got a lot of personal ones that we're trying to either get banned or unbanned or whatever. And
one shot.
one day maybe. Wand Shop forever. I will forever love Wand Shop.
Uh, Second person, Professor McGonagall. She's been sitting on our watch list since probably the inception of the banned and restricted.
Actually,
We've
even
had
before that, she was on the watch list back when
yeah,
Gen Con tournaments were happening. I think she got put on in like 2016. Back then, I
possibly.
think the watch list was McGonagall, Flitwick, and I think there was a third card in general. It wasn't a character, but that was like the original watch list almost 10 years ago.
But yeah, she's super strong. Transfig access, very good. Remove an
Yep.
adventure, very good.
Yep.
But also her popularity has been like dropping like crazy in the
Yes.
past like year or 2 years. It's almost getting to the point where I want to take her off the watch list because like I know that nothing's going to happen to her.
And I think going back to the whole like we have the power essentially to design new cards. I think in the original set she was really strong because
Mhm.
a lot of the adventures that we have since banned from the original sets needed
Yeah.
an answer, and she just gave you that in your starting character slot, and that itself was really strong. But
Mhm.
honestly, like adventures are still super strong. Through the Arch is still played all the time. Hiding from Snape, a bunch of adventures are still played all the time. But as we're designing more cards, and there's going to be 2 in the upcoming set that are gonna help to take care of creatures and items. As more of these things are happening, they're alternatives to playing adventures, and they take less actions. They are restricted by color and by cost, but they require one action, not two. And I think that they may start slowly taking the place of adventures. So her effect is needed, but it's not as powerful in this format as it was in the classic format.
Yeah,
That
I
could be
think
a
I agree.
hot take, but that's kind of how I
Um,
see that shift.
yeah, definitely the power of adventure builds has been curbed a lot with the banning of like every single problematic adventure ever. Um, I think there was a joke some point where can we just have McGonagall's ability be like, or no, it was Filch, use an action to discard a problematic adventure instead of like any adventure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we removed Flitwick from the watch list, and the original Flitwick was strong. I think new Flitwick is maybe stronger than the original. I don't really know, but then you get into this question, and we've talked about it before on the revival team. At what point do all of this professors get put on the watch list because providing that power is just super powerful? And like, is that secondary ability enough? Is it the color that's providing that matters? There's just a lot of like questions around professors and like how strong they are. And I can't wait to make more professors.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you there, but yes, professors are strong.
Yes.
But
Listen,
also,
I want a Professor Snape potion master or like however we're gonna do that. I really want the next iteration of Snape and of Hooch because I love Quidditch.
I don't think Hooch will ever get another card. I think if we get a Quidditch professor, it's probably going to be not Hooch,
I
like
mean, it could
another
be like
Pepperdine.
Hooch referee, right?
Nah, nah.
Yes. Yes. I'm gonna push for this in Order of the Phoenix. So in like 8 years, watch
Yeah.
watch for Hooch, and maybe she'll come out
Yeah, sure. Sure.
then.
And then we'll have Snape Half-Blood Prince or something, right?
Exactly. There you go.
I'm
There you
sorry, spoilers for the book. I should have prefaced with that. Within like the next 16 years, coming
go.
to an HBTC table
Oh
near.
God, that's hard. You know what? Maybe we'll just do a mini set and it'll just be professors. And it'll just be 20 characters, all professors.
That sounds
And we'll just
miserable.
unleash chaos.
Yeah, no, miserable. If you all want to do that with your fan sets, go for it. Don't involve the rival team.
Anyway, so yeah, so she's on the watch list. The next one is actually one that you have actually played quite a bit, and you
I
always
hate it.
bring up when we're designing cards, which is really good to be like the abusability with this is something to think about. And we actually changed a card from the upcoming set because it could recur itself multiple copies every turn, and you're like, whoa, Seamus exists, and Seamus can be a problem. So Seamus is on the watch list, but similar to the previous one, the popularity has gone down, and getting the extra action just hasn't been good enough, or he's boring, or he's been used too much. Like, I'm not sure what's actually
Some things
driving
happen.
it.
And to be fair, he does see he's one of these weird like characters that sees a lot of play in decks and sees a lot of play in the starting character slot. And to be fair, I've only been pushing for Seamus to be banned in the starting character slot,
Yes.
which wouldn't affect a lot of decks that play him in main board. But yeah, we've just been giving more and more like discard synergies because that's one of like my pet projects for this game, I guess.
Listen, I want
Also,
Lockhart to work
yeah,
so
I was
bad. I'm
gonna
pushing
bring
all
that
the time for Lockhart to work.
up.
He still does not.
He's okay. We're probably also never gonna errata Lockhart, sorry.
I know
For
that's
people
very
that are
sad.
waiting for the buff for him. Yeah, that's not happening. But yeah, the action is super good, but it feels like it's probably been harder and harder to cope with the loss of two cards from your hand for that action.
Yeah, I think there was a spike in his popularity when the Revelations came out because
Yeah.
they kind of replaced themselves. But that deck, it just didn't like you can't just run Revelations and start Seamus. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you can. That's how I won my tournament.
But you did Hufflepuff match and then played like a
No, no,
potion
no, no,
Quidditch
no.
card, right? That
That's
one?
no, my character deck was just Seamus, starting Seamus, and then 8 revelations that I can't play because I was never hitting 4 power and they were in the wrong colors or something. It's fine. You just have like 8 card slots dedicated specifically to powering Seamus, and that it's okay, but also it's a large sacrifice that you have to make in your deck construction. Like deck space is
Yes.
already tight as is in this game. Dedicating another 8 slots to it is like,
It's
and if you're
hard.
doing less than 8 slots, if you want to do 4, are you actually getting that much value out of Seamus' ability now? It's super hard. Those are all reasons for why he's been dropping in popularity. annoying to build. Still super strong, but
Hmm.
probably not going to get touched for a while at least, until we print more discard synergies.
Yeah, maybe we'll have more revelations in the future or something else.
Yeah, not in this next set. Probably not on the set after, so don't count on it. Maybe
No,
in
it
the set.
it well possibly because when Friends comes in and he teaches divination in book 5, that might be a potential time, but that
Okay.
is far away.
Yes, again in like 4 years this time, not 8. So that's Seamus. We've been talking a lot about characters. I wanted to bring up our last card from the watch list that I want to talk about, which is a location that you all know and love, Forbidden Corridor. I think
Love
Forbidden
is
Corridor.
definitely a loose word.
Okay, at least someone out there loves it.
Somebody.
I can name 2 people at least. But yeah, it's probably the card that creates the most unfun situations the most quickly, in which that you just get out an early Forbidden Corridor and your opponent can't deal with it. Either they just don't have the tools in their deck, or they don't find their tools to deal with it, and then they lose all their lessons, they lose all their other cards in play, and then they lose the game.
Yeah.
Because Forbidden Corridor, if your deck is running it, you definitely have ways to mitigate this cost, whether that the most popular one right now is Professor Haggard, I believe, with his ability to just bounce a lesson to your hand instead of discarding the card. You're never down on cards when you play Forbidden Corridor. And also the fact that it triggers at the beginning of your turn means if you play it and they remove it, you've already 2-for-1 them, which is extremely annoying with this card.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with it, and it's definitely been something to compete against in previous tournaments. It's also this complicated situation. Even though, yeah, you're gonna use 2 cards for just their one. It's the easiest card type to get rid of because you can play your own whatever one you want to play, Chamber
Location.
of Secrets or something. Yeah. So it's easy to get rid of, but like yeah, you do lose a card before you can play it. So it's this complicated balance. I think it's on the watch list because it has been in so many powerful decks over the past year, and we're just gonna have to see what it does moving forward. But we're definitely aware that this is a card that people don't always enjoy playing against and does have some issues, but hopefully we can design stuff to mitigate some of those issues.
And maybe that's just like something to do with lessons, et cetera, et cetera. Because lessons are so easy to play. If you toss them, moving forward, we're going to try to make cards, I think, that make it feel not as bad to lose lessons. Maybe after that, we can see Invisible Ink come off the ban list. Who knows? Probably not.
I will fight for that to stay on the ban list, but you never know.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll see. Lesson removal, just very unfun to play against, and stifles a lot of other decks that
Yes.
we would like to see played. Forbidden Corridor is one of those cards. It's not like specifically lesson removal, but it in practice it turns out to be pretty lesson removal-y. That is Forbidden Corridor. And that is the end of the watch list cards that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so hopefully that gives you guys a really good idea for kind of where we're at as we're designing cards and as we're working on the ban list and just kind of like what we're thinking. There's many more cards on the watch list or that we talk about on a consistent basis that could be added next year, but right now this is just kind of where we're at. And I don't think, correct me if I'm mistaken, that there was any conversation about removing any of the cards on the ban list. We didn't even really like touch
Uh,
on them to bring them off, right?
I think I led the charge to be like, caught by Snape, yep, still on the ban list. Dobby's disappearance, yep, still on the ban list, and then et cetera, et cetera. We just like talked about all of them and we're like, yep, these should be banned.
Yep, we have not designed anything to bring anything off, so it'll stay. They'll all stay on for now.
Yeah, and probably in the foreseeable future. If there's like one card that I could see coming off the ban list, actually 2 cards, possibly would be Wand Shop and Invisible Ink, but I don't see this happening anytime soon.
Yeah, the reasons they were both banned, I think, is going to take a long time to correct. One shot because of the restriction for design space. I don't think that will ever come off. Invisible
Mm.
ink, as you kind of said, maybe it would come off, but I don't know about that. I'd fight it pretty strong.
Yeah, that's because you just hate lesson removal, so
I do. I'm very anti like don't stop me from playing the game and having fun. I just want to have fun. I want to play
um
Quidditch and lose and not have to worry about my lessons.
now
Yeah,
we're gonna dive a little bit into the second part of our B&R update, which was a new thing that we did for this one. We introduced erratas to existing cards that we've created because we found either they are problematic in some certain way. We'd like to bridge the revival sets more closely with the original five by changing them or by creating more design space or creative direction that players can use with these cards to create a wider variety of play styles.
Yeah,
Our
and we've done this at least twice before, I think. We added a bunch of keywords to some Quidditch positions when that first kind of became a thing.
Oh
I
yeah.
think 5 or 6 cards, and I think Nick became a ghost at that point because Nearly Headless Nick was
Yes.
not a ghost. And
Uh,
then we also errataed the original 5 set cards, like Lockhart's Hair Care and stuff
mm.
like that. I think like Ron Weasley. So
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff just cost fewer or more, as opposed to saying like you use one action instead of two. And we're like, this breaks rules and makes rules complicated. So
Yeah.
now they just like increase and decrease actions, which is probably the intention. But 2001 did not have the technology in terms of the language to make that clear.
Uh,
And the errata list as well allowed us, when we're talking about cards that we have made, to change them in small ways enough so that we don't have to ban them. So we can keep everything still in the pool and keep the game balanced and not have to say, like, this card was too much, we're gonna take it off or something.
With that said, let's talk about the first topic for this, the first card, Hogwarts of History, because this was actually I believe that our talks around this were, are we errataing this or are we banning this card? Because it is extremely problematic. The ability to like just recur cards for very cheap, an unlimited recursion that is extremely cheap is, of course, like if you're playing your best card over and over, like deboning over and over, it creates bad play patterns. You don't want a deck, I think, that just plays the same card over and over. This is not an enjoyable thing to play or an enjoyable thing to play against unless you are an extremely sadistic person.
Exactly. And I think with this particular card, access to that stuff at such a low cost can just come out so early and
Yeah.
requires less investment from you. So we decided to increase the cost by 3 up to 9. And at that point, you're in VTJ area. You're kind of at just like that big area where it's like, all right, if you're going to get up to 9 power to play Hogwarts of History, other people at that point can get up to 9 power to do other things. And at that point, they should be able to compete or respond in some kind of way before this becomes an issue. So it was kind
Yeah.
of seen as like a balancing thing.
One of our goals as like designers was to make the upper end of cards more desirable to play. I think with the exception of VTJ, there's basically no other card really in the O5 that is worth actually getting up there for. Maybe Memory Charm or Obliviate
There's like
are, but
weird like combo decks you can do. Like there was an old one with Wand Shop where you started Snape and you got up to whatever that 12 cost potion card is,
oh,
Potion
Potions
Class
Class
Disaster or
Disaster.
something.
That's not a card that exists. Like I played the deck where it's like you Obliviate them and then you Potions Class Disaster them.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
it's weird. There's a lot of steps.
yeah, it's just not strong. It's super fragile. But yeah, so like this was like a design space that we felt was lacking because Harry Potter, in their infinite wisdom, the original designers decided to create a linear power level scaling for power cost. Power cost goes up by one, numbers on the card go up by one or whatever, however it's done, which just doesn't work in these types of games where it needs to be an exponential scaling. So with Hogwarts of History up there, maybe there's another card that decks will consider ramping up to 9 power to try to play.
Exactly. And now the card can stay in the card pool and we don't have to make the ban list even longer.
Yeah.
But the next card, which is Brass Scales, was kind of in that same area where it needed something on it to make it not quite as strong, so we didn't have to ban it. Not that it was at the same power level as Hogwarts of History, but it was kind of causing these play situations that were becoming a little redundant, boring, whatever, and it made your board a little too powerful. And kind of going back to like Draco Malfoy, when you kind of pair Brass Scales with Draco Malfoy, Slytherin, you get just this expansive board that is very impervious to any kind of destruction effect. And so it just became too much.
Any kind of non-table trouble disruption effect. Coral, but Coral's kind of just a temporary measure because DMS is very good at rebuilding after Coral.
Oh, so strong in that. So
Yeah.
strong. So we just said Brass Scales can't return itself because often people would play one Brass Scales bring back a second brass scales so that if people use like a one-to-one destruction, which is the most popular thing to do in this game, they had a second brass scales, and then their next turn could bring back the other brass, and it was this continual
Yeah.
loop, and there were a lot of play pattern issues with that. So
Yeah, you
hopefully this is more balanced.
can't get rid of brass scales except with mass removal. So we just decided to curb that part of the power, and hopefully
Yep.
it creates less problematic game states. Last card was Armando Dippet, a notoriously bad starter, so we decided to make him even worse. And by that I
He's so much
mean
better, and I'm so happy. I'm so
yeah.
happy.
So this is kind of like an experiment, I guess, that we're trying to do with the errata. By changing Armando, we're trying to increase his power level to the point where decks that want to take advantage of Armando in this type of like house tribal type of deck will actually be able to see more play. I do want to say that like this isn't a thing that we're trying to do for every card. So if you have some pet card in that the revival team has made, and you're like, oh, if only the numbers were like one higher, it would be playable. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. As we said before, we're trying to make we try to make as few changes as possible to the banned and restricted and errata list. So it's now the B&R and E. That's such a mouthful.
It's such a mouthful.
But yeah, we're trying to make very small changes that will make very large ripple effects in the world of diversity of decks, which is why we decided that Armando should be changed to make him quite a bit better.
And I just really want to highlight your point that this is something that is going to be super rare to occur, and really only with cards that are kind of like cornerstones to a particular strategy, or that we just thought were way more powerful and just need kind of that leg up. And Dippet is definitely one of those. So we've definitely like improved this. Hopefully with him, we'll see people already talking about bringing him to the next tournament. So again, small, infrequent changes, likely June 1st every year. We may break that. We haven't really like firmly decided, but probably on June 1st every year if there is an
Probably.
update. Yeah, but that's a big if.
As you said back in like the start of this, we think that printing new cards is the best way to attempt to correct, or I don't like the word correct here. Maybe like enhance, improve the meta game.
Yes, agreed. And yeah, we do want to lean on the fact that we are able to respond to what is occurring, and we are able to like design new cards for that. We don't just want to keep making all these like past changes on all these different things.
So look to the future. Don't be mired in the past. That's what we're trying to say here.
Do you have any like last thoughts about just kind of the B&R and E list?
B&R and E-list, it's a
I
mouthful.
don't like that at all, but
I don't
anyway,
like it at all
it
either.
is what
Like,
it is.
I'm just literally just gonna talk about it as a B&R list, and like, it's just gonna be assumed that I'm talking about erratas as well, and people are gonna be
Yeah, there you go.
confused.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'll
So,
add one last thing, and that is that we've essentially the first B&R list in 2020, I think had a decent number of cards on it, and then the second one in 2023 had a decent number of cards. And I think our goal is like we've kind of hit a lot of the major issues in the game that we needed to hit. And now we're kind of in this like comfortable, safer spot where we don't need to do as much every single year. So hopefully you guys will start seeing 0 or 1 changes, if any, because we should be at this point now where we can react to stuff. We don't need to do as many bans and whatnot. So hopefully the larger swings with bans have passed us.
yeah, hopefully. And before the next change is the largest change yet.
Yeah. Yes.
It's probably not gonna happen. I can't see it happening, but
No.
I've been wrong about a lot of things. So that's about wraps up, I think, our conversation on 2025 BNR.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gives a little bit more insight onto why we do what we do. And hopefully the changes that people have seen on this are positive and a positive moving forward. Time will tell.
Yeah, the next tournament will be in a couple of months, so we'll kind of see if any of this has taken effect during that tournament, or if
Uh,
people don't play any of these cards in that tournament.
I will say that I'm expecting at least 5 Armandos in the next tournament.
I mean, I'm also highly considering playing one, but I'm also considering something else, so undecided right now.
Yeah, undecided. That
Very, very
sounds like
undecided.
I really have not been doing any QWF deck construction, so
I mean, we've had so much other work just preparing the set to release. where
Yeah.
building decks for that will come once the set is out, which is going to be a fantastic time.
Yes, because someone likes Quidditch.
Very much. And I think there's a lot of great Quidditch cards in Quidditch World Finals, and I'm super excited to have those in people's hands and to see what people do with them. Well, that is everything we have to talk about. So we have a couple of things to announce. Number one, we are going to have a tournament coming up in a couple of months. So look out for that. It'll probably be in August or September-ish. And we're super excited for the first tournament with the new set. We are also going to hopefully be doing some draft things with the new set. So also be on the lookout for that. We are also going to be having a guest spot for hosts for the podcast. So if you're interested in being a guest host, you can suggest a topic when you are the guest host. We might have a topic for you. We'll kind of talk about that. Send us a message on Discord. Our email is in the show notes. You can send us an email and we'll reach out to you. And you have the opportunity to talk with us about Harry Potter stuff and just nerd out with the game a little bit. That will just kind of be an ongoing thing. So if you are interested, yeah, just reach out. Other than that, thanks for tuning in and listening. Make sure you follow all of the socials down listed in the notes, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.